Is it baseball season? Absolutely, it is baseball season. 2026 is just about to be underway, Tom. And when we say that, well, we got about, 5 weeks or so till we get to opening day. But in the meantime, it's our job to get you caught up. Welcome in to Pro Baseball Today, right here on the SportsGrid Network. Your boy Donnie Rightside, along with Tom Vecchio. Same players last year, getting back after it this year, Tom. I'm excited. How about you?
I'm certainly excited, and there's a ton to get to. We're going to do, I would say, a nice ramp up leading into the season.
Yes.
We know we are weeks away from the games, but Donnie, we also got to mix in the World Baseball Classic. So we'll do, a little recap, a little preview. We're going to be at the World Baseball Classic before we know it. And then it's going to be, straight handicapping the season outlook for teams, different award markets. And then before you know it, we will have Yankees at Dodgers on that Wednesday. Yankees at Giants on that Wednesday night for the first game of the season.
5 weeks, Tom. We got the boys ready to go, and then we'll be off and running and doing our show each and every Sunday here. So if I have this straight, Tom, we got February, March, April, May, June, July, and August. That's 7 months of Sundays with your boy Donnie Rightside and Tom Vecchio. Looking forward to. And also, our job is to get you ready for opening day and also look back at what happened last year, use some of those metrics to go over for this year, tell you exactly which way we're leaning, how we're betting, and also what we see out of the 2026 season, Tom. But I got to tell you, the Los Angeles Dodgers were the big topic once again in the offseason. Not only did they win back-to-back World Series, they look like a runaway favorite in 2026. Just looking back at last year, the Dodgers had a win total, Tom, of 103.5. Nobody in Major League Baseball hit the century mark, but the Dodgers turned up the gas once they got into the playoffs.
And it's really something that we talked about throughout the entirety of the season, especially, in July and August. They went through a little bit of a slump, and
yeah.
We constantly talked about them, and there was a point where the Padres were actually battling them for the division lead. And he was saying, are the Dodgers not going to win the division? Are they not going to have home field? And obviously they came through. They have so much talent there. And it's going to be much of the same this year. A super high win total yet again. They're booked as massive favorites to win the division, favorites to win the NL. They're, plus 210 to win the World Series. We know all these things are going to be there. And they've only made improvements yet again in the offseason. So, Donnie, to say that they are, I don't want to say a shoo-in to win the NL, but it's certainly looking close to that. And the question becomes is, where is the breaking point for the Dodgers and really baseball overall? Because we are approaching a very interesting time between this year leading into next.
Yeah, we got a lot of time to talk about the Dodgers, but you just take a look at what they did last year, because the expectations, Tom, after they were World Series champions, trying to repeat, were, boy, who's going to beat this team? And again, hanging at 103.5. It's a long baseball season. Injuries do happen. You don't play your best baseball. But I think most people thought the Dodgers getting to the century mark and probably be the best team overall record-wise in baseball was the thing to do. You just take a look at the National League last year. The Phillies had 96 wins. You take a look at the Brewers, who had 97 wins for a league high there. 92 by the Chicago Cubs. 90s you talked about by the Padres. And then with the Dodgers, 93-69. Not even have home field advantage getting into the playoffs and steamrolling through all the way. Why? Because we watched some epic performances down the stretch by their pitching staff, which we'll get to. But more importantly, the NL MVP Shohei Ohtani, who seems to be getting better every single year. And you take a look at, what can he do next year? We saw him, Tom, ramping up his pitching throughout the summer and being that dominant pitcher we expected down the stretch. But also, 282 at the plate, 55 bombs, and 102 RBI. Absolutely ridiculous. The expectations are, we think he's going to do that on a year-to-year basis, and we'll be shocked, Tom, if he didn't. And he's already the MVP.
He's already the favorite for the MVP.
Yes.
And Donnie, this is a season that we're going to see Ohtani out there for presumably an entire year of pitching, right? There are reports that he's not going to pitch in the World Baseball Classic. We know that. But if he's going to be giving them a full season on the mound and at the plate, Donnie, we're going to have this conversation throughout the entire year. It's like, what can someone else do, another player in the NL, to, I don't want to say even challenge, but even be in the same conversation as Ohtani for the NL MVP? My mind keeps going back to what Acuna did a number of years ago when he went for 70, 80 stolen bases and hit 40 bombs. Like, some player has to do something so dramatic that they can unseat Ohtani. Because even if Ohtani's an average pitcher, but he's awesome at the plate, he's gonna win MVP.
Yeah, it's almost like, Tom, you take a look and it's just fatigue that would keep him away from being MVP. Like, understand this. If he goes out on the mound and pitches to a 3.75 ERA, which let's just call it middle of the pack, wins 12 or 13 games, gets to the plate, Tom, hits 275 and hits 42 home runs with, let's just say, 100 RBI. It's like, oh, he had a down season. No, he's far and away the best player in baseball, and it's still not even close. The only way that he's going to be knocked off that mantle is, A, if he gets injured, or B, we just get tired of saying, oh, somebody got a little bit closer. But a guy who can absolutely be an elite pitcher and be the best hitter maybe of all time, as you take a look at this point, it's hard to keep him down. And also, you're right. You're going to get a full season of pitching from him. And Tom, I do agree with. Shouldn't be pitching at the WBC. Keep those innings as low as you can. Have him be a hitter. And then you start opening day here and you ramp up his pitching again. But for what we saw that contract that he signed. Like, how can you live up to that? He's already profitable for the Dodgers, and they have to pay him hundreds of millions of dollars still to go.
Right. At this point, the contract that he got, it almost looks like it's a steal. It almost looks like they're not paying him enough for what he's doing. The fact that he can win yet another MVP. He didn't win the World Series MVP, but honestly, he's a big reason why they got there. The question I would have is, can we even make a reasonable argument for other players to be in the same MVP conversation? As we see Ohtani sitting here minus money in the middle of February to win MVP. So it's a long season. I would like to see a player challenge him for MVP just because it's going to give us a good storyline throughout the season. But he's got it, in his back pocket at this point. He just needs to go out there and do it, and it'll be his.
Yeah, again, they ramped up. We have a lot of weeks to get ready. We're going to take a look at that Dodgers lineup a little bit later in the show, the additions that they made already to the best team in baseball. Talking about, Tom, like the best 1 through 9, the best starting pitching, and then saying, you know what, let's go spend money on our bullpen to make that the best. Because you saw the playoffs was very unique where they were using frontline starters in the bullpen and being dominant. Now they go, you know what, let's just be dominant in the bullpen and we can still splice in those starters if we need them. And take a look at Ohtani from last year's pitching statistics, Tom. 1-1, like, oh, that's weird. 2.87 ERA through 47 innings, ramping him up, ready to go. He should hit the ground running as they start, and that's something that we're going to keep an eye on throughout Major League Baseball. There'll be a heavy favorite, it feels like, Tom, every single night. That's just the way it is. But other hot topics across the sports landscape here in Major League Baseball we will get to, which includes Emmanuel Clase. We thought, like, oh, look, a couple games here, can't be doing that. Going to suspend them here. It turns out, Tom, it was dozens of games that Clase was bending the rules, quote unquote, to make himself and his boys a little bit extra cash.
Right, and there are reports that he was getting texts, alluding to or instructing him to do certain things about throwing a ball here or there in some type of, coded language, so to speak. But it's a huge problem. And I think, I don't want to say this is the tip of the iceberg, but clearly for him, the initial report of him impacting the game in some way was just the beginning. And we're getting a lot further and a lot more details when it comes to what he actually did and how he actually threw games, quote unquote, threw pitches in order to profit. So seeing what the books and the league do in response to this is going to be the most important thing.
No, real. And again, this is why we have legalized gambling to catch this stuff and throw them out, because you can always be like, oh, man, this game looks rigged. And you want to believe that it's not. But at least if it is, somebody's going to be caught down the line and maybe they lessen the blow later season. It's amazing that usually it's one of those guys, Tom, it's like, hey, I'm up here for a cup of coffee. And maybe I get away with 5 or 6 games of doing this, put some money in my pocket, and I'll be banished from baseball. But this is one of the premier closers where even at the trade deadline, people really wanted to trade for this guy. Like, no. You can't trade for this guy. Wait to hear some of the details that absolutely comes back on Emmanuel Clase. But it is what it is. It happens. That's what we saw. ABS coming to Major League Baseball this year, where you can actually tap that helmet, Tom, and get a pitch back. You want to have a couple quick talking points on that before we head to the break? What do you think?
Yeah, ABS is going to be huge this year. I was going to say it's going to be tough to bet pitcher props to start. We just need a bigger sample size.
And by the way, we're going to take a look at those Los Angeles Dodgers coming up right here after the break. How did that World Series go? How exciting was it? Do you remember it? I do. It was fantastic. And what did the Dodgers winning the World Series? We'll be right back on Pro Baseball Today.
Aaron Judge, no stranger to hitting 60 home runs in a season, but we certainly aren't going to put a FanDuel win total or even DraftKings at 60. So Sam, our producer, set it at 55. Aaron Judge will hit 55-plus home runs this year. You going to buy or sell?
All right, Aaron Rodgers here.
Oh, there
Aaron,
he is.
What do you think? What do you think, Aaron? Can you hit 55? Aaron Judge, right? Got it in my head here. 55 is asking a lot, Sam. It's asking a lot. He hit 53 last year, 58 the year before, 37, but that was the year he hurt his toe in Dodger Stadium, and then, of course, 62. I got to sell this. All right, you're asking for just to be 7 home runs off the record? I mean, no, we can't keep doing this every year here. Plus, he does have an injury history there. Over the last 2 years, he's been completely healthy. I'll just say no. Between possibility of an injury, teams waking up and going, nope, not pitching to him. I'll take the under here. Although, as a Yankee fan, he better. He better, because if he don't, Yankees going to be in a lot of trouble.
So I've decided to go by the letter of the law. Sam is not going to like this. Sam is not going to like my answer. Yep. Sam, listen, Sam leaves these little loopholes in the buy or sell. 55 home runs between 55 plus the regular season, postseason, World Baseball Classic, buy. Spring training, buy. Above 55 between spring training, World Baseball Classic, regular season, and postseason. Aaron Judge will hit 55 home runs.
He didn't say this season.
He didn't say this season. He said this year. The graphic says this year.
Fantasy Sports Today. Friday, starting at 3 p.m. Only on SportsGrid.
Baseball's a long season. We understand that. And also the thought process of the Dodgers might be a shoo-in to win their 3rd straight World Series, but it's never that easy. You don't just walk away and be like, you know what, sweep all the way through and get it done. If you remember the World Series last year, it was absolutely fantastic. And if you didn't, we're going to catch up right now. You do remember, guys, it went 7 games. You do remember game number 7 when extra innings was unbelievable, ridiculous play after ridiculous play late in that game. Phenomenal as it turned out, but once again, Tom, the Dodgers were victorious, and maybe you can just say they just had better players, but when they came to play, they were there in those 7 games. Goodness.
They really were, and it legitimately was the best World Series that I can possibly remember. We got everything that we wanted. We had high-scoring games. We had low-scoring games. We had great home runs, great fielding, pitching. We had blown saves. We had extra innings. You name it. It checked off every single box, and it did so with the best talent that we've really ever seen. Great storylines with the Blue Jays of really where the Blue Jays were. And this is something that, a lot of people talk about throughout the Blue Jays postseason run of where they were May 1st, June 1st, July 1st to where they ended up. And then the Dodgers, they went through their own trials and tribulations to an extent. Mookie was terrible last year for a large portion of. He started off the year injured and sick. Same thing with Freddie Freeman, who was dealing with some things. Then they come storming back, and it's really the peak moments that we saw from the Dodgers, even dating back to the World Series before that, when Freddie Freeman has grand slam, walk-off homer, all those things. So all those storylines collided at the exact same time to give us one of the best World Series we've ever seen.
And let's not forget this, too. Like, the Toronto Blue Jays had World Series home field advantage in that. And you look at those first 2 games where they ended up in the split. And then that epic, Tom, 18-inning game, which saw the Dodgers win 6-5. You're like, okay, Dodgers probably just won the World Series. That's going to be an epic letdown for Toronto. Only for Toronto to go back, win back-to-back games in L.A. and come home, Tom, where they just had to win 1 baseball game in Game 6 or Game 7 and walk away as World Series champions. So credit the Dodgers for winning both of those games 6 and 7 in a crazy atmosphere on the road in Toronto. It was phenomenal. But sometimes, Tom, we look at how we got there. We're going to get to Game 7 in just a few moments. Like, if you looked at the final statistics of the World Series from batting averages, you'd say to yourself, how did this actually work out in Los Angeles' favor? Shohei Ohtani was great, 333. Actually started the postseason slow and really ramped it up late, but 267 out of Will Smith, 241 at Teoscar Hernandez, 214 at Max Muncy. They say Freddie Freeman, we love the guy. 207 in the World Series, Tom. Then you flip it over to Toronto and say, well, how did they perform? Barger, 480. Clement, 387. Springer, 381. Bichette, 348. Vladimir Guerrero Jr., 333. Alejandro Kirk, 308. And they lost the series, Tom.
Unbelievable. And I remember Barger was having hits, not just a hit a game, multiple hits every single game, putting the ball in play. It really comes down to the big moments. The hitting that the Dodgers had combined with the kind of pitching downfalls that the Blue Jays had, those things are what really put it over for the edge for the Dodgers. And you got to say, I remember talking about it with you, Blue Jays going back, home field advantage, they just got to win 1 out of 2. Just win 1 out of 2 in your World Series champs, and they just couldn't get it done. Obviously, there's plenty of credit to the Dodgers, but the Blue Jays had a great team last year. I think they're going to have a great team this year. I know personally, you and I, we weren't super high on the Blue Jays going into last year, like 12 months ago. We were not high on the Blue Jays, and they proved a lot of people wrong. And frankly, I think they're here to stay. Despite losing Bo Bichette in the offseason, I think they are here to stay. They will be in the playoffs year in and year out, essentially.
Yeah, maybe Santander can take off the summer and come back, who knows, late September at this point. They're getting crushing little blows there, some big money in that lineup. But the Blue Jays do have a pretty good squad here. But also, taking a look at last year, we get to game number 7, right? And say, well, who's probably going to be the MVP? Yamamoto in that series was absolutely spectacular. Pitching a game, 9 innings pitched, 1 earned run, 8 Ks. Comes back 6 innings pitched, 1 earned run, 6 Ks. Then comes in out of the bullpen, 2.2 innings, no earned runs, and a strikeout. He was nothing short of spectacular. Like, all we talk about sometimes are, boy, that guy is overpaid. When the Dodgers needed a superstar who was paid a lot of money, like Yamamoto, he absolutely delivered when you needed it in the biggest times.
He really did. And, this is like always the revisionist history that people want to have. It's like, that's a bad contract. Oh, what's the AAV? They're paying him that much? He's never going to live up to that. It's like, well, yeah, there are going to be times throughout the regular season where he doesn't look good, or he gets pulled early, or he had that start against Milwaukee that I remember I think it was in July, where he got blown up, where he had multiple runs. But, when you need him most, he comes through to win. And that's really what it comes down to. You're going to pay your big players. They're going to have their faults throughout the year. But if they show up in the playoffs and the World Series, you can live with him having a couple bad starts in the middle of May.
Like, Tom, by the way, I'm just looking at game number 7 here, where they have like the bullet points and what actually happened. Like, if some Hollywood script writer gave you the script, like, this is the stupidest baseball game I've ever seen, none of this is going to happen in a game number 7. You can never get it. Like, from wins to losses to wins to losses in a matter of moments, bases loaded, errors, unbelievable catches in the biggest moments, Tom. Game number 7 had it all. And, like, sometimes like to be over dramatic and say, like, oh, stop the recency bias here. Honestly, this might have been the best World Series I've ever watched, and it's good when casual baseball fans on social media, Tom, are dipping into this game like, this is unbelievable. Let me call my dad. Let me call my brother. Let me call a family friend and say, you need to turn this game on right now. It's insane. It's so delivered into Game 7. Like, we used to say, hey, Game 7, the best 2 words in sports. And it's like, it was like a 6-1 blowout, easy win. That game was phenomenal from start to finish.
It really was. And, there's something about baseball. It's obviously a little bit different than other sports where there's no clock outside of the pitch clock, but there's no time limit on the game. Things can be drawn out. And that's where the tension gets built. And, we were talking during the break about, what are the best recent World Series. I think this has to be at the top of the list, not just recently, but really one of the top of all time. When the Nats won in 2019, that was certainly a good one. When the Cubs obviously broke their, drought, that was a great one. But this has to be at the top of the list.
Yeah, Dodgers had the bases loaded in extra innings. And, of course, like, okay, 2 outs. Let's see what the Toronto Blue Jays can do in the bottom of the inning. Bang! Will Smith goes yard at that point and gives them the lead. Absolutely sensational stuff. And, again, crazy catches. But that's how it ended last year, which sometimes you got to take a look back and say, how can we use that this year? Well, we know the Dodgers are good. Their payroll is absolutely incredible at this point. They added some superstar players. And then, Tom, a little bit later in the show, what we're going to talk about here? Is it actually good for baseball? How about that?
Certainly a lot to discuss on that note when the Dodgers and the money that they're spending, but we can dive into that in a little bit.
Yeah, let's get into some statistics from last year in 2025 and 2026. Is it opening day yet? No, it's not. It's opening day right here on the SportsGrid Network. Donnie, Rightside, Tom Vecchio. We're talking baseball, baby.
Aaron Judge, no stranger to hitting 60 home runs in a season, but we certainly aren't going to put a FanDuel win total or even DraftKings at 60. So Sam, our producer, set it at 55. Aaron Judge will hit 55 plus home runs this year. You going to buy or sell?
All right, Aaron Rodgers here.
Oh, there
Aaron,
he is.
What do you think? What do you think, Aaron? Can you hit 55? Aaron Judge, right? Got it in my head here. 55 is asking a lot, Sam. It's asking a lot. He hit 53 last year, 58 the year before, 37, but that was the year he hurt his toe in Dodger Stadium, and then of course 62. I gotta sell this. All right, you're asking for just to be 7 home runs off the record. I mean, no, he can't keep doing this every year here. Plus, he does have an injury history there. Although the last 2 years he's been completely healthy. I'll just say no. Between possibility of an injury, teams waking up and going, nope, not pitching to him. I'll take the under here. Although as a Yankee fan, he better, because if he don't, Yankees gonna be in a lot of trouble.
So I've decided to go by the letter of the law. Sam is not going to like this. Sam is not going to like my answer. Yep. Sam, listen. Sam leaves these little loopholes in buy or sell. 55 home runs between 55 plus the regular season, postseason, World Baseball Classic. Buy. Spring training. Buy. Above 55 between spring training, World Baseball Classic, regular season, and postseason. Aaron Judge will hit 55 home runs. He didn't say this season. He didn't say this season. He said this year. The graphic says this year.
Fantasy Sports Today. Friday starting at 3 p.m. Only on SportsGrid.
I love baseball season. You might be watching the show live like, what are these guys, crazy? Baseball season doesn't even come up till March 25th is opening day. Nonsense. Got to get you ready. And by the way, Tom, did you know my Philadelphia Phillies will be starting tomorrow with their first full squad workouts? And away we go into baseball season. We're going to get reports. I don't want to say, is it next Friday? I want to say maybe the first actual spring training game start. Then we get the World Baseball Classic and a lot of topics to go over, Tom. So that's what we have exciting. But also, we want to reach back, Tom, and take a look at what happened last year. The one thing part of the show is how many times I say, here we go, Tom's bombs for a Sunday afternoon. And boy, did we get them last year. Did you know, Tom, 4 players last year hit 50-plus home runs, which included Cal Raleigh, a catcher, dropping a 60-pack on the people last year.
What a season from Cal Raleigh.
Yeah.
Obviously, as things got closer to the end of the season, it became a huge debate between him and Judge, who would win the MVP, those sorts of things. But what Cal Raleigh did last year is just special. Like, there's really no other way to put it. A switch hitting catcher to have that level of production was absolutely fantastic. I will say there's going to be a lot of chances this year to potentially fade Cal Raleigh because what he did last year was very clearly an outlier. Like, that is a once in a career type season that he put together. I would be stunned, flat out stunned, if he approached 90% of that production from last year.
Yeah, like what would be the odd? Like, he's not hit. I mean, again, we say not. And hey, Cal Raleigh's hit 25 home runs in the month of April. Like, what is going on out here? But the process behind that too, Tom, is like the dude hits in Seattle and hit 60 home runs. It wasn't like he played in where the Sacramento with the Athletics. Like, hey, well, he's playing in a tiny ballpark at 100 degrees, half of his games here. That's not the case. That's how crazy his season was. But Tom, as I look at the top 10, and yes, Kyle Schwarber in Philadelphia, 56 bombs last year. One game he hit 4 home runs in a single game. Ohtani with 55, Aaron Judge with 53. But the next two guys probably raised eyebrows. Like Eugenio Suarez was 1 homer away from hitting 50 bombs at his age. Now, he did move and got traded last year and didn't really have that same power down the stretch because his start was unbelievable. But then you see guys like Junior Caminero, 45 home runs, Tom. And the first thing I go to is, man, are we not going to have George Steinbrenner Field here for Tampa Bay any longer at this point? And then he can't hit his 45 bombs. But just looking at Suarez and Caminero, 5 and 6 last year in Major League Baseball in bombs. Dudes were stroking it last year, man. We really were.
They were. And, one of the points you just made is that Tampa no longer at the field they were last year. They're back at the top, back in Tampa. So, I want to believe in Caminero as a talent just because he is so young, right? And if they were playing outdoors again, Donnie, I would say, okay, maybe not 45 home runs for him, but if you told me he ended with 38, I'd be like, okay, yeah, sign me up for that. But he's still young. I still think he has a ton of talent. The park factor is a huge, huge difference in 1 year to the next. I so desperately wish he was A, on either a different team, or B, he was still playing outdoors, because you could get 38 home runs from him and around 100 RBIs year in and year out.
Like, look, nobody's going to wish another hurricane comes through Florida and blows the roof off the Trop and causes a lot of damage. But a busted pipe or two at the Trop, move them back outdoors, that's what we need to get after here. And by the way, talking about Steinbrenner Field down there in spring training, that's the home of the New York Yankees. There was a time last year, Tom, where we were asking ourselves questions, April, May, June, and July. Is it possible that Aaron Judge could hit 350, 360, 370, 380, or 400 on the season? He hit 331, which was astronomically good. But where it could have been, Tom, we could have been looking at a 350-plus hitter who hit for power with 53 home runs.
Right. It's not just as if we're getting a 380 or 360 type of hitter who's knocking singles and doubles like Luis Urias. And granted, a couple of years ago, Luis Urias, he was batting in the upper 300s for a long while. And there's a question, could he win MVP? It's like, no. If you hit 380, that's fantastic. But when you have 7 home runs or 11 home runs and you only have 50 RBIs, that's not the same as a player who can hit 310 and has 50 home runs and 100 RBIs. Like, that is a very, very different world. But, Judge, he did have that injury at the beginning of August, which set him back just a little bit. But he still put together another fantastic season, obviously led to another MVP. And, that's really where we should be seeing him every single year. And I think we're going to have a good competition for AL MVP this year, just because different players are going to be stepping up. And I think different players are going to be able to do different things, which will allow a competition for Judge and the MVP.
Did you know, Tom, only 7 players in Major League Baseball last year hit over 300? Yandy Diaz, Trey Turner, Jeremy Pena. How about that? George Springer, Jacob Wilson, Bo Bichette, who goes from Toronto over to the New York Mets. We'll talk about it a little bit later. And then Aaron Judge at 331. Even with all those advantages now to the offense, you can't have shifts, the bases are bigger, and a lot of things going in their direction. Still only 7 players hitting 300 because why? Everybody's taught uppercut, home run, get that ball in the air, and see if you can do some damage that way. Tommy and Donnie on a Sunday morning, always doing damage. We'll be back after this short break.
Aaron Judge, no stranger to hitting 60 home runs in a season, but we certainly aren't going to put a FanDuel win total or even DraftKings at 60. So Sam, our producer, set it at 55. Aaron Judge will hit 55-plus home runs this year. You going to buy or sell?
All right, Aaron Rodgers here.
Oh, there
Aaron,
he is.
What do you think? What do you think, Aaron? Can you hit 55? Aaron Judge, right? Got it in my head here. 55 is asking a lot, Sam. It's asking a lot. He hit 53 last year, 58 the year before, 37, but that was the year he hurt his toe in Dodger Stadium, and then, of course, 62. I got to sell this. All right, you're asking for just to be 7 home runs off the record? I mean, no, he can't keep doing this every year here. Plus, he does have an injury history there. Over the last 2 years, he's been completely healthy. I'll just say no. Between possibility of an injury, teams waking up going, nope, not pitching to him. I'll take the under here. Although, as a Yankee fan, he better, because if he don't, Yankees gonna be in a lot of trouble.
So I've decided to go by the letter of the law. Sam is not going to like this. Sam is not going to like my answer. Yep. Sam, listen. Sam leaves these little loopholes in the buy or sell. 55 home runs between 55 plus the regular season, postseason, World Baseball Classic. Buy. Spring training? Buy. Above 55. Between spring training, World Baseball Classic, regular season, and postseason, Aaron Judge will hit 55 home runs. He didn't say this season. He didn't say this season. He said this year. The graphic says this year.
Fantasy Sports Today. Friday starting at 3 p.m. Only on SportsGrid.
You want to talk about mega superstars in Major League Baseball winning the biggest awards? You love to see it, and certainly they are deserved. We just talked about Shohei Ohtani, who might win the MVP for the next 5 years straight as long as he's a decent pitcher and a decent hitter. That's what's supposed to happen. And then in the American League, we thought it might have been Cal Raleigh here hitting 60 bombs, but it wasn't. And rightfully so, Aaron Judge. WAR was way up there, and he is back-to-back MVP of the AL. Tom, his stat line last year, 331 average, the best in Major League Baseball, 53 home runs, 114 RBI, and an OPS at 1.144, which is ridiculous. So the best batting average, he came in fourth in the home runs, fifth in RBI, and number one in OPS. Sensational for Aaron Judge.
He also led in total bases, which is important. And a lot of people were discussing the Judge versus Cal Raleigh dynamic for the MVP. But, Judge had a higher WRC+, he had a higher WOBA. He led in total bases, had a higher average, and he did so in fewer games. So Cal Raleigh had more chances to have more total bases and did not do so. So when you have a player that hits 50-plus home runs and has the batting average that Aaron Judge did, which was nearly 100 points higher than Cal Raleigh, to me, it was very clear that Judge should have been the MVP, rightfully so. We're moving into a year, Donnie, where, betting on Cal Raleigh this year for MVP, to me, it seems like you missed the boat. You're never going to get a good number on Cal Raleigh considering the leap that he has taken into the public eye. And betting on him at this point, I would say, there's lost value on it. Like you are not in a spot where you're going to be having a good number. Can you do so because you think he can challenge Judge again? Maybe, but that's not the bet that I'd be looking at.
It's just, and again, it's amazing where sometimes you feel bad, like, oh, we should have just gave it to Cal Raleigh. But the numbers are the numbers. But for a catcher to hit 60 home runs in one of the hardest ballparks to hit home runs, what an amazing season and a fun ride it was for Seattle. But again, rightfully so, it should have been Judge there as the MVP gets it done. Now, can he win 3 in a row? Now, he doesn't have the advantage of, you know what? Every fifth day, I'm going to take the mound here and whip up, 175 plus strikeouts to go with my 50 home runs. No, he can't do that. But he's certainly been that dominant at the plate. Maybe his arm is fixed up enough where he can be that certainly defensive element that can climb in and get him some extra bonus points, as we like to say. But we move to the pitching ranks here. Tarek Skubal. Funny story here, Tom, as we know, one of the single best, if not the best pitcher in Major League Baseball. His team's like, man, we don't feel like paying you at this point right now. He wins his arbitration, and rightfully so, Tom. Last year, Cy Young, 13-6 on the season, 2.21 ERA, which was second in Major League Baseball, second in strikeouts with 241. And look at that whip, number one, 0.89 here. Skubal, filthy as you can get. Another Cy Young under the mantle for him.
2 in a row for Skubal, and like you said, the arbitration case comes down in his favor as we paid $32 million this season as he approaches his last year with the Tigers before he hits free agency. One of the best performances in really back-to-back years that we've seen from a pitcher, and of course we'll get to another one in just a second, but fantastic stuff from Skubal to see where he has come really in the arc of his career. That he dealt with some injuries, he was delayed in his recovery, and then comes back to then put up 2 of the best seasons that we've ever seen from a pitcher. Absolutely unbelievable and absolutely deserving so of winning back-to-back Cy Youngs.
I mean, fantastic stuff. And again, can you imagine as an organization, it's like you can avoid arbitration, sign him to a long-term contract or what it's going to cost him. The guy won 2 straight Cy Youngs. You're like, let's lowball that guy. That's one of those negotiations that goes, what do you think is fair? $30 million. You got it. Let's avoid this arbitration. Let's get the good vibes in the locker room. And then you go out and pay another guy a lot of money on top of it, which I do like the pitching staff, 1, 2, and 3 for Detroit, which we got plenty of time to talk about. But you have one of the best, if not pitchers in baseball. Just treat him with respect here. He'll pay you back on the diamond as it goes. How about the National League? Paul Skeens kicks down the Cy Young party time in Pittsburgh. 10-10. Oh, no, Tom. 10-10. That means he's not a dominant pitcher. Stop. We threw the wins, losses out for the pitchers a long time ago. How about an ERA? 1.97. They're dominant in the National League. How about K's? 2.16. And how about his whip? 0.95 here. Skeens, as dominant as you can be, just doesn't matter. He's dominating in Pittsburgh, Tom. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah, another player that is very deserving of the award he has gotten for another season for Skeens. Unbelievable stuff. Like you said, wins and losses don't matter when it comes to a pitcher. We know that. We've known that for years, dating back to when DeGrom was with the Mets. The fact that we're witnessing 2 dominant pitchers in both leagues, NL and AL, I think is actually great. I would hate to see them in the same league because it would just be, we'd be splitting hairs and deciding who deserves it. And we can make an equal case for Skubal to win it, an equal case for Skeens to win it if they were in the same league. But two great pitchers. Honestly, Donnie, two of the best pitchers that we've really ever seen, especially for Skeens. He's just getting started. Like, we are going to see this for a decade plus of pure dominance on the mound, and he deserves all the flowers that he could possibly get.
Like, outside of like the rumors, like, Skeens will probably be a New York Yankee or he's going to be a Los Angeles Dodger. Eventually they'll overwhelm Pittsburgh. They can't sign him. He'll break the bank on what he's ever going to get paid. We're actually happy as other baseball fans. Like, no. Like, if Skeens gets to the Dodgers and he's this dominant, like, what are you going to do about it? Or the New York Yankees? At least to give me this now. Like, think about it, Tom. This guy was the Cy Young award-winning pitcher, had an ERA of under 2, and was .500 on the mound. That's how bad Pittsburgh is. If you tell me a guy's going to pitch that many innings, that many strikeouts, and say every time he takes the mound, we just have to scrape together 2 runs over 9 innings to win, and Tom, they only do that half of the time. That's amazing. That's amazing.
It is. I was thinking this in across sports in these different scenarios like this. What if he was just on a team, equivalent who won the wild card? Like, we're not even talking about a dominant team like the Dodgers, the Yankees that can win their division. But if he was just on like a league average team, slightly above, that can make the playoffs, he'd be looking at 18 wins consistently on every single year. He'd be looking at 18 wins in 30-ish starts, and they can't even do that.
NL Rookie of the Year, Tom, the Atlanta Braves, who, I mean, anybody that could have stayed healthy for any portion of their season hopefully would help them out. He finished that season 274 batting average, 19 bombs, 80 RBI, and 111 hits here. It always seems like the minor league system for Atlanta does produce a lot of superstars, and then they try to pay those superstars early to save those arbitration years. Drake Baldwin, great season last year for Atlanta, even if Atlanta didn't have a great season.
Right. The NL Rookie of the Year last year was a little bit all over the place. There was a time that we thought it was going to be Mizorowski from the Brewers as he exploded onto the scene. Then Chase Burns came around for the Reds, and he, very exciting start for him. He obviously got set back by injuries. There was no one clear dominant player in the NL, but Drake Baldwin deserved it. Like, he's playing a tough position. He's, a catcher for the Braves. Now, there was a question on did he actually deserve it, because he was splitting time initially with the Braves when they still had Sean Murphy. Obviously, he dealt with his own injuries. But the Braves weren't great as a team, but individually, Baldwin put up a fantastic season. I think they have a future there with him, and they have a future with a lot of players. Like, as you said, they lock them up early, they lock them up long-term, and they're going to be there for you. I think the Braves as a team are going to be in for a bounce back this year.
How about this for the Athletics here, who played their games in Sacramento? Now, how quickly they get to Las Vegas, we won't know. They'll be in a dome, and it'll probably be harder to hit home runs. You can hit in Sacktown, and Nick Kurtz did that last year, Tom. 290 batting average, 36 bombs, 86 RBI, and 122 hits. That's how you get down. There is talent on that Sacramento/Oakland/Athletics team, whatever you want to call them this year. And Nick Kurtz, he was awesome last year.
He was, and I remember that game. I believe they were at the Astros last year when he had, what was it, three home runs and 12 or 13 total bases, whatever it was. Like, we knew at that point he had locked up the AL Rookie of the Year. So, the point I was making with the NL Rookie of the Year is, like, we didn't really know who was going to win it. Once Nick Kurtz exploded onto the scene, we knew he was going to win it. He was showing up day in and day out, put up massive numbers, breaking records, and it was his award to lose at a certain point. And also, to what you said about the Athletics, there's a lot of talent on that roster. I really like between Kurtz, Jacob Wilson, Soderstrom, adding a little bit of Lawrence Butler. I like what they have on that roster.
Yeah, every Sunday we get some of these bets and handouts, and we did a lot of Sacramento Athletic action last year. It was a lot of fun to do it. How about this, Tom? We talked about those Major League Baseball pitchers. Nobody even last year got to 20 wins in Major League Baseball. The highest on the totem pole, it was Max Fried of the New York Yankees with 19 wins, looking for another good season in the Bronx this year. We'll be right back with more hot topics right here on Pro Baseball Today.
Aaron Judge, no stranger to hitting 60 home runs in a season, but we certainly aren't going to put a FanDuel win total or even DraftKings at 60. So Sam, our producer, set it at 55. Aaron Judge will hit 55 plus home runs this year. You going to buy or sell?
All right, Aaron Rodgers here.
Oh, there he
Aaron,
is.
What do you think? What do you think, Aaron? Can you hit 55? Aaron Judge, right? Got it in my head here. 55 is asking a lot, Sam. It's asking a lot. He hit 53 last year, 58 the year before, 37, but that was the year he hurt his toe in Dodger Stadium, and then of course 62. I gotta sell this. All right, you're asking for just to be 7 home runs off the record. I mean, no, he can't keep doing this every year here. Plus, he does have an injury history there. Over the last 2 years, he's been completely healthy. I'll just say no. Between possibility of an injury, teams waking up and going, nope, not pitching to him. I'll take the under here. Although as a Yankee fan, he better, because if he don't, Yankees gonna be in a lot of trouble.
So I've decided to go by the letter of the law. Sam is not going to like this. Sam is not going to like my answer. Yep. Sam, listen. Sam leaves these little loopholes by herself. 55 home runs between 55 plus the regular season, postseason, World Baseball Classic. Bye. Spring training. Bye. Above 55 between spring training, World Baseball Classic, regular season, and postseason. Aaron Judge will hit 55 home runs.
He didn't say this season.
He didn't say this season. He said this year. The graphic says this year.
Fantasy Sports Today. Friday starting at 3 p.m. Only on SportsGrid.
Pro baseball today on a Sunday. Look, hey, you might be saying, whoa, what happened to the NFL? Stop the madness here. Turn the page. It's baseball season. Pitchers and catchers already arriving. This week we get workouts and also spring training games later in the week. Then we flip it over to the WBC. And Tom, before you can snap that finger, whoa, March 25th, opening night in Major League Baseball. Let's take a step back here and look at what happened last year, particularly in the National League and the NL East. The Phillies, the Mets, Marlins, and Braves, and the Nationals make up that NL East, and they finished in that exact order. Tom, I wasn't surprised by the Philadelphia Phillies winning 96 games, number 2 in the National League, only behind the Brewers at 97. Do you know what I was surprised at? The team that was supposed to challenge them, honestly, to me, was the Atlanta Braves, 76 and 86. It just seemed like they lost pitchers every single week of the season, and they just couldn't play up to it here. The Mets put up a little bit of a fight, but weren't worthy of that once September came around. The Phillies, though, won the National League with 96 wins. How did we feel about the National League East last year, Tom?
You know, it starts off with Acuna and Strider not being healthy for the Braves. And then Strider comes back, and then he gets hurt again. And whether it's Schwellenbach, whether it's Schmidt-Strauver for the Braves, pitchers, like you said, constantly getting hurt. Chris Sale was good. They just couldn't put together a full team at the exact same time. Austin Riley had a down year. Ozzie Albies was hurt. So it was never a complete lineup at the same time for the Braves. And that's really what I keep telling myself about this. Like, it was just a lost season for them. And I don't know how else to explain it. Like, I know that seems like a little bit of a cop-out, or I'm trying to make excuses for them, but I'm not. I think they are in for a much better season this year. They have a ton of talent. If they can stay healthy, as we say for every team or every player, they will be competing with the Mets and the Phillies. And I often say that we're going to have a division that gives us multiple, if not 3 teams for the playoffs. And I truly believe if everyone in the NL East is at their best, it can be those 3 teams.
Yeah, Schwellenbach struggling a little bit right now here with injuries heading into the season. We'll see how that goes along. But also when you look at, like, the Mets were only 4 games above 500 last year, made a lot of changes in the offseason, we'll get to in just a little bit. The interesting part, like, again, like the Braves usually, toe around and finish second or third, make the playoffs in a quality club. They just had too many injuries. But the team I always look at here, like the Marlins, 79 and 83, like played good baseball last year. We're fighting down the stretch, finished the season winners of 7 of 10 games here to almost get back to 500. But the team that I always look at that doesn't make any sense, it's the Nationals. To know where they were with the talent they have, and now winding up as, yeah, we play in the D.C. market. We're going to trade all of our superstars, just let them walk, and we're not going to sign anybody, and our payroll is in the gutter right now. That is an abomination. Like, the Nationals had a great pipeline of talent, great superstars at Major League Baseball, and gave it all away.
They really did. And, last year there was a point where I don't want to say I was high on the Nationals, but I was optimistic. And the phrase I often used about the Nationals last year was, I think this is going to a team that can cause some trouble for other teams in their division. And that really wasn't the case. And, they traded away Mackenzie Gore this offseason, but I really should have flipped that. And it's like the Marlins are that team. The Marlins are the team where, if they finish with roughly the same record this year, am I going to be surprised? No. Do I expect them to make the playoffs? Probably not, but I think they're going to be a lot better than people realize. And they're not the Marlins as we remember them from years past. They're going to be a team that's going to challenge other teams. They're not going to be pushover wins against the Braves, Mets, or the Phillies. There's going to be good value on the Marlins in some of those games. They have good pitching. They have good hitting. Kyle Stowers last year was great for the Marlins, putting up plenty of power. So the Marlins are a team that you can get a fair number on them. And I think they're going to be a team that most people just won't look at and saying like, oh, we have to worry about them against the Braves.
Yeah, and by the way, sometime during this 5 weeks build up till we actually get baseball on Sundays here, that we got to get some of these uniform look-ins, because when I was a kid in the early 1990s, Tom, like we were all about like this was the color scheme changes across hockey, like you had the San Jose Sharks come in. Teal was such a big deal. The Marlins uniform was beautiful. Now they're bringing back some of those like every Sunday games or every Thursday games to bring back some more of that teal. It looks fantastic, and we're going to have one of those rated. I'm like, ooh, how stylish can that lineup actually be? The Marlins certainly got some of those good jerseys back here. Let's get to the Central Division, Tom. The Brewers, 97 wins last year. I believe it was number one in Major League Baseball. Yes, it was. This year, Tom, spent like $1 million in the offseason. Cubs, Reds, Cardinals, Padres also in that division here. The Brewers won that division by 5 games. I don't know if they're going to do that this year, man. Cubbies spent some money here and looking to be gaining on them quickly.
Yeah, I would say that the Brewers kind of peaked last year. And they peaked last year, and they've also moved off of some talent this year, trading away Freddie Peralta to the Mets. If you were to ask me to give you a finishing order, off the top of my head, Cardinals absolutely last. The Cardinals are going to be absolutely terrible this year. I think the Cubs will win the division. I then think it'll be Brewers, Reds, or Reds, Brewers. And then I think the Pirates may just default to fourth. But I'm expecting much better things out of the Cubs this year and much worse things out of the Brewers. It's not to say I don't think the Brewers could end with 87, 88 wins, maybe sneak into a wild card spot, but seeing them push towards 100 wins again would absolutely shock me. And then the Cardinals. The Cardinals are going to be terrible this year. There's a team that we're going to be looking to fade each and every week. The pitching staff is not there. They don't have enough hitting. The talent is just simply not there for them. They need a full reset.
And by the way, the Milwaukee Brewers run differential last year was a plus 172. So how do you ramp up and say next year we'll be better, guys? Let's trade away our best players. Don't sign. Hey, you got Gary Sanchez. Congratulations, like $1 million. That seems like it's going to fit in really, really well. And then the West, of course, is the Dodgers. They won the division last year, 93 wins. Second place was the Padres at 90, followed by the Giants and the Diamondbacks with 81 and 80 respectively. And then there's Colorado, 43 wins. We'll see if they can do more than that this year. But the Dodgers certainly the best team in baseball, which means you won the World Series, then had an unbelievable offseason, and away the Dodgers go.
Buy on the Giants this year. That's one of my takes coming into the year. I really think the Giants are going to be better this year than they were last year. So buy. I haven't bet on their win total yet, but it's certainly one of the ones at the top of my list, along with the Tigers and the Rangers, who I talked about the other day with Craig Mish. But the Giants are a team I have my eye on. I'm low on the Padres. I'm high on the Giants. I think the Dodgers will win the division, yes. But the Giants as a team to challenge them and make the playoffs for the Giants, you'd sign me up for that.
Like, you look at the National League, and again, it's a shame what the Washington Nationals did. Like, you could have a fan base there. You had a great baseball team. You systematically destroyed that here, and that's what you're left with. But then again, there's the St. Louis Cardinals, who used to be like, you know what? We're always going to put a competitive team out, and we'll sell this building out and get a lot of fans. St. Louis fans are staying away in droves. Why? That team isn't even showing any fight, Tom. Oh, yeah. Come on back with us.
Aaron Judge, no stranger to hitting 60 home runs in a season, but we certainly aren't going to put a FanDuel win total or even DraftKings at 60. So Sam, our producer, set it at 55. Aaron Judge will hit 55 plus home runs this year. You going to buy or sell?
All right, Aaron Rodgers here.
Oh, there he
Aaron,
is.
What do you think? What do you think, Aaron? Can you hit 55? Aaron Judge, right? Got it in my head here. 55 is asking a lot, Sam. It's asking a lot. He hit 53 last year, 58 the year before, 37, but that was the year he hurt his toe in Dodger Stadium, and then of course 62. I gotta sell this. All right, you're asking for just to be 7 home runs off the record. I mean, no, he can't keep doing this every year here. Plus, he does have an injury history there. Over the last 2 years, he's been completely healthy. I'll just say no. Between the possibility of an injury, teams waking up and going, nope, not pitching to him. I'll take the under here. Although as a Yankee fan, he better, because if he don't, Yankees gonna be in a lot of trouble.
So I've decided to go by the letter of the law. Sam is not going to like this. Sam is not going to like my answer. Yep. Sam, listen. Sam leaves these little loopholes in the buy or sell. 55 home runs between 55 plus the regular season, postseason, World Baseball Classic. Buy. Spring training. Buy. Above 55 between spring training, World Baseball Classic, regular season, and postseason. Aaron Judge will hit 55 home runs.
He didn't say this season.
He didn't say this season. He said this year. The graphic says this year.
Fantasy Sports Today. Friday starting at 3 p.m. Only on SportsGrid.
American League action here. The best teams were the Toronto Blue Jays and the New York Yankees in the same division in the American League East, both with 94 wins here. The Guardians won the Central with 88 victories, just over the Tigers, who finished with 87. And what a crazy comeback there for the Guardians. And then you had in the West, it was the Seattle Mariners with 90 wins, followed by the Houston Astros at 87. Tom, I want to start with the American League East, which was sensational last year. The Blue Jays, 94 victories. The Yankees, 94 victories. And it took a 4-game win streak for Toronto to hold them off because why? The Yankees closed the season with an 8-game win streak here, followed by the Sox with 89 victories here, then the Rays and the Baltimore Orioles. I loved the American League East, and it was the Toronto Blue Jays slightly better by the tiebreaker when it was all said and done.
Right. So, an initial view for this season would be the top two are the same, not sure which order. Red Sox a little bit lower, Orioles a good amount higher. There's enough talent on the Orioles that they're going to be in for a bounce-back season. They're still dealing with injuries now to start the year as they were last year, but improving the pitching was a big issue for me, and it's something they did a little bit in the offseason. I don't love the idea that they traded away Grayson Rodriguez to the Angels. I know he didn't pitch for them last year just due to the injuries that he had, but he's still one of their top pitching prospects and one of the top pitching prospects dating back a few years. I would like to see them just give it a go with him for a couple of years to see what they could get out of him. We talked about the additions and subtractions for a lot of these teams, and we'll do that as we approach these next 5 weeks, Donnie, going through the major moves. But what the Red Sox have done this season really hasn't moved the needle for me. I think they'll be over 500. I think they'll be in the mix for a wild card, but there's just not enough impact, and they're relying on a lot of young talent all to step up at the same time to be that difference maker. I just don't know if they're there yet. A couple more years, they could be there, just not this year.
I love it. I think pound for pound, the best division in Major League Baseball. And you're talking about the Jays, the Yankees, and the Red Sox absolutely doing damage. And then the Orioles trying to get better. And then the Rays are always the Rays right there. Fantastic 2026 coming up. And as Tom pointed out, we're going to have shows where we go team by team, additions and subtractions, what we think of the lineups. We got plenty of time. We don't have to rush anything. Central Division, the Guardians, what an unbelievable finish when it looked like the Tigers were shoo-ins at this point. You had a 2-8 finish for the Tigers down the stretch and a 7-3 finish for the Guardians to reclaim that division here. Guardians, Tigers, Royals, Twins, and then those White Sox at 60 victories down at the bottom.
When it comes to this division, Tigers should have won it last year, right? We know that. And there was a point I remember in August doing a show last year. I think the Tigers were like minus 15,000 to win the division when they had a 10-game lead or whatever it was. And obviously credit to the Guardians for coming back and really just stringing together all those wins to end the season in September. Fantastic from them. Tigers, a little bit of a collapse from them. They obviously still made the postseason. They still won and moved on. Twins are going to be bad this year. I think that I was very low on the Twins last year. I think they were the favorite to win the AL Central last year, and I was just completely out on the Twins. They were devoid of talent. It is going to be much of the same this year. It's just not a properly run organization. Out on them. Royals are a team I want to be high on, Donnie, because I like their lineup. I want to be able to consistently trust Bobby Witt, Garcia, Vinny P, Sal Perez. I want to be able to trust those guys from a betting perspective. So maybe that's just me being hopeful. But then the White Sox, they made some interesting moves. Bringing over Murakami is something that we'll talk about. But a lot of power with him, and I think they'll at least be fun this year. Just not be as bad as last year, and they can at least bring some excitement for us.
And by the way, Tom points out, getting plenty of time to lead up to it. Changes made not only to jerseys and teams, but also to ballparks themselves. Kansas City,
Yes.
Tom, bringing those field fences in just a little bit. Love to see it in one of the tougher ballparks to hit in. The West last year was ruled by the Seattle Mariners. 90 wins. They won that division. And by the way, in the West, the only team to make the playoffs, it was the Mariners. Houston, always in the playoffs. 87 and 75, left out. Followed by the Rangers, who were 500, who just never could get off the schneid, and too many injuries last year. The A's, 76 wins, and then the Angels there pulling up the rear at 72. Competitive division. Let's see if Houston can maybe get back on top this year.
Not Houston, but Texas is the team that I'm looking back initially. Love them bringing in Mackenzie Gore. I love the rotation that they have between DeGrom, Eovaldi, Mackenzie Gore, Kumar Rocker, and Jack Leiter. I think none of those players are going to be a pure number one ace. It's not DeGrom anymore. Mackenzie Gore can eventually get there in his career, but you have a lot of guys that are essentially 2 or 3 starters in rotations, and that brings just a sturdy level of consistency. So give me the Rangers this year, the Athletics for that lineup in that ballpark, Donnie, and I'm low on the Astros. Yeah. That's where I'm looking for the AL West.
Hey, look, good ball team, good ball clubs all the way across. The one thing we do like about Major League Baseball, even though you have the low payrolls, everybody thinks they can make the playoffs on opening day, and then you get to the haves and the have-nots around All-Star break, and then you say, you know what, trade deadline comes up, and it's absolutely a wrap on half of these teams as it goes. But that's the fun part about it. 5 weeks to get you ready for opening day. It's what we're going to do on Pro Baseball today. Hour number 1 down, hour number 2 on deck next.
Aaron Judge, no stranger to hitting 60 home runs in a season, but we certainly aren't going to put a FanDuel win total or even DraftKings at 60. So Sam, our producer, set it at 55. Aaron Judge will hit 55-plus home runs this year. You going to buy or sell?
All right, Aaron Rodgers here.
Oh, there
Aaron,
he is.
What do you think? What do you think, Aaron? Can you hit 55? Aaron Judge, right? Got it in my head here. 55 is asking a lot, Sam. It's asking a lot. He hit 53 last year, 58 the year before, 37, but that was the year he hurt his toe in Dodger Stadium, and then, of course, 62. I got to sell this. All right, you're asking for just to be 7 home runs off the record? I mean, no, we can't keep doing this every year here. Plus, he does have an injury history there. For the last 2 years, he's been completely healthy. I'll just say no. Between the possibility of an injury, teams waking up and going, nope, not pitching to him, I'll take the under here. Although, as a Yankee fan, he better, because if he don't, Yankees gonna be in a lot of trouble.
So I've decided to go by the letter of the law. Sam is not going to like this. Sam is not going to like my answer. Yep. Sam leaves these little loopholes in the buy or sell. 55 home runs between 55 plus the regular season, postseason, World Baseball Classic. Buy. Spring training. Buy. Above 55 between spring training, World Baseball Classic, regular season, and postseason. Aaron Judge will hit 55 home runs. He didn't say this season. He didn't say this season. He said this year. The graphic says this year.
Fantasy Sports Today. Friday starting at 3 p.m. Only on SportsGrid.